back to where we left off. This was, of course, the partitioning phase. Our next phase is going to be installing stage 3. We also have the SDA3 mounted, or in our case, SDA2. We're following this guide as closely as possible, except we're not using SDA2 as a swap partition. So SDA2 is our root partition. Or, to be more precise, will be our root partition. Now, it recommends installing a stage tarball. It recommends checking the date on this thing. I don't really need to check the date right here because it says the date right down there. Now, of note, it says it is 1655 UTC. In my current time zone, which is US Central Time, it is 10:55 US Central Time. Since Central Time is 6 hours behind UTC, the date looks fine. However, if the date did not look fine, we have the option of running either this command right here to grab the date off of a remote server, or we could run this command right here. It gives you some information on how this command is structured. Specifically, it's the 2-digit month, the 2-digit day, the 2-digit hour, the 2-digit minute, and the 4-digit year. Notably, if it is 11:55 p.m., you would put 23:55 right here. Not 11:55. 11:55 would put it as 11:55 a.m. So you have to make sure that you're using the 24-hour year if you are going to use this command to manually set the time. Now at this point, it recommends choosing a stage tarball. It gives you your list of options, or at least your list of basic options. You have multi-lib, which gives you 32 and 64-bit compatibility. You have no multi-lib, which gives you just 64-bit compatibility. We have OpenRC, which is the default init system for Gentoo. And then you have System D, which is the init system used for a number of more modern distributions. I believe Red Hat and Debian are both using System D at this point. On practically any operating system, I think you can choose what init system you use. However, the one that they use by default is the one that is most supported. And since Gentoo uses OpenRC by default, that is what we will be using. We're going to go back over to here, and we're going to go to gentoo.org. We're going to go back to this Get Gentoo page. I spoke about this earlier. However, we've got these stage 3 profiles right here. And it does mention there are no multi-lib profiles. Those are down here. You've got no multi-lib for OpenRC and no multi-lib for System D. Notably, there is no desktop, no multi-lib profile. You have to build that up yourself. Since we're just doing a base install right here, we are going to simply use the OpenRC Stage 3 tarball right here. That'll take a few minutes to download, depending on the speed of your connection, as well as the speed of the server that you are connecting to. If the server is close to you and you have a really high-speed link to it, it could take a matter of seconds. Let's go back over to here. It gives you information on how to download the stage tarball if you are using the actual text-based install. We are not. So we have a graphical browser right here. No major issue here. However, if you are using the command line install, you will want to use these commands right here to ensure that you are getting the most up-to-date browser. Now, notably, there are two web browsers, two text-based web browsers listed here. We've got Lynx, and then we've got Lynx. Lynx, L-I-N-K-S, and Lynx, L-Y-N-X. Now, some Linux distributions will have one and not the other. Some will have the other and not the first one. In this case, I think this particular install environment gives you Lynx LINKS. However, a Ubuntu Live CD or Live install environment, whichever, might give you Lynx LYNX, or it might give you both. I cannot speak to that. It gives you information on verifying and validating the particular file that you downloaded, whichever one that you downloaded. We've obviously got a lot of them. And basically the way that you would verify this if you are in a graphical environment is you would click on the stage 3 right here, and it would bring you up to here, at which point you would find which file you downloaded. In my case, that would be, let me see, HIJKLMNO. I believe that would be this one right here. And you would grab this right here. That's the list of digests for this entire thing. And what that basically gives you is a way to verify that you downloaded the correct file and that it has everything that you need. The next thing we need to do is go back to our root shell right here, cd to download, downloads plural, and you'll see that the stage 3 tarball is right here. We're going to want to copy the stage 3 tarball to /mnt/gentoo, and that should only take a second. Then we need to cd to /mnt/gentoo. You'll see that the stage 3 tarball is there, as is a directory titled lost plus found. This lost plus found directory is explained better by other YouTubers. However, essentially when your system runs a file check and it detects that something's screwy with the files, it'll place any screwy bits in the lost plus found directory. Hopefully that never actually happens to you. Now, let's Alt-Tab back to here. It tells you to tar xpvf stage 3, tar xpvf stage 3, and then it tells you x attributes include -- x attributes include ****. This tells it to include all attributes of every single file and numeric owner. This tells it to not listen to the actual user name that it's using, but rather just use the user number of each individual file or directory rather, that it is going to create by extracting this particular archive. As far as the xpvf, the X tells it to extract, the P tells it to preserve permissions, the V gives you verbose output, and the F tells it which file to do the extracting on. Now, this is what the V does. It tells you what it is extracting. That's all the V does. Once this is done, we have some compile options to configure. As I've mentioned, Gentoo compiles practically everything from source code. So since it installs everything from source code, it needs certain options to be there to tell it how exactly to compile everything. Now that this is done, nano, etc, portage, make.conf, and that brings up this. First thing you're going to want to do is set the common flags. As it states right here, recommended setting is -march equals native. So -march equals native. This tells it to optimize for the particular processor that your system happens to be using. It's able to detect that by default. However, sometimes its detection can be a little bit faulty. Most of the time, however, it'll work just fine. Now the O flags are a little bit different. Those are for optimization. You can have O1, O2, I think O3 is an option, or you can have OS. OS is optimizing for size, so if you want something to be as small of a binary as you can get it, you would use OS. Otherwise, just stick with O2. O3 usually causes things to get a little bit screwy. Make opts. This is important as well. Make opts equals -J6. I'm using 6 because my system has 8 threads and I want to have a couple of threads just left over so that the system can do whatever else the system happens to be doing while things are compiling. And that appears to be all we need to do for this particular file. And we're going to move on to installing the base system. Right here it tells you to do mirror select. We're going to need to do this. One of the advantages of using the graphical environment is the ability to copy and paste. It makes things significantly easier. We're going to select a few different services close to me and a few different services a little bit further away. I would actually advise against selecting any rsync services. That rsync's got its own particular uses, and downloading files, which is what this does, is not one of those uses. We're going to go up to the Japan Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. We're going to use 3 different ones from there. We're going to go up to Germany. I'm going to use the University of Erlangen-Nuremberg. You'll have to excuse my German pronunciation. I haven't been there in over a decade. And finally, I'm going to select a couple from Canada. I'm going to go with terabyte.com. Once that's done, clear the screen. Ready to go there. tells you to make directory along with the parents of that directory for this right here. And it expects you to take this file right here, /mnt/gentoo/usr/share/portage/config/repos.conf, and copy it to /mnt/gentoo/etsy/portage/repos.conf/gentoo.conf. I'll show you what this file is in a minute. Oops. Oh, I deleted a little bit too much. No worries. This is what this file contains. Essentially what it is a listing of settings for the default Gentoo repository. It tells it where to sync the repository from, and it tells it where the repository is located on the local device, on the local computer. It also tells it what type of sync to use, in this case, rsync. There are some alternative repositories. We will probably get into that in a more advanced segment. But those alternative repositories, might not necessarily use rsync. But, as it says, this is basically the same thing. It recommends copying DNS info, and frankly, I agree. You should copy the DNS info because otherwise the system you are going to be going into will most likely not have proper internet access. Next up, we've got all the mount commands. You'll note that all of these mount commands have the target directory prefixed with /mnt/gentoo, but we don't actually need that. Watch and learn. Mount -t proc /proc mount /rbind /sys /rbind /dev /rbind /run /make -rslave sys dev run. That's it. You'll note that it tells you to do it in a different order here. It actually does not matter what order you do these in. Well, it kind of does, because you need to do the rbind before you do the make rslave for each one. So if you just take the types, the 3 rbinds, and then do the 3 make rslaves, it all works the same way. If you're using a non-Gentoo installation media, say for example the Ubuntu live environment, well, you'll need to run these commands most likely in order to make everything work. Now, let's get into the actual environment for this whole thing. The environment that we will use for the rest of this thing is going to be here. chroot /mnt/gentoo/bin/bash. We're in. Now, source/etsy/profile. This updates settings within the system so that it matches what the chroot environment expects. And this right here just, well, you'll see. It prefixes the prompt right here with the chroot right here, so that you know where you are. Now, mount /dev/sda1/boot. Almost said /mnt/gentoo/boot. Then we do emerge webrsync. Don't worry about that top one that says non-existent directory. It's actually creating the directory as soon as you do this. It would appear that it is attempting to retrieve the snapshot from one of the mirrors which I had selected, that being terabyte.com in Canada. It has been fetched, and it tells you to run emerge /sync. That puts out a heck of a lot of data to the terminal, and I don't want all that garbage, so we're going to sync quiet. After this, it tells you to read up on the news items. I'm not going to read those. You can if you want to. You don't have to. After this, it tells you to do an eSelect profile. You should probably stick to the profile that you have. However, if you wish to, at this point, change from whichever profile you have installed, for example, if you got the baseline stage 3 and you want to use the desktop, well, you can switch that at this time. But I'd recommend just keeping on what you have, because changing it up is going to cause a lot of other stuff to be pulled in. And if you're like me and you like to keep your system nice and tidy and clean as far as the installed software goes, you're not going to want to change the profile. Now, eSelect news list. I forgot the T. As you can see, we've got 10 different news items, with the latest one being from December 27th, introduction of app alternative e-builds. That actually sounds interesting to me. Wow, that is a lot to read. Introducing a new category of e-builds called app alternatives to handle cases where a symlink for a common binary may want to be switched between different packages by a user. Traditionally, eSelect was used for this, and while eSelect still has its place, it's unsuitable for cases like bin-awk and bin-sh because it prevents immutable system directories, and more importantly, from a package management perspective, relies on orphaned symlinks, which means no package owns /bin/awk/bin/sh, etc. This is not reliable and can lead to dead symlinks or no symlink at all in some edge cases. Well, that actually sounds like something that's pretty important. Probably a good thing that they made that change. So, eSelect profile list. This is a list of profiles that you can select. The one I currently have enabled is 17.1 base. I can install 17.1 SE Linux, I can install I can install hardened SE Linux, I can install just regular hardened, I can install desktop, desktop with GNOME, desktop with Plasma, desktop with systemd, so on and so forth. I will, however, just keep it as is with this base install. I'm not intending on changing anything. What we have right here looks perfectly fine. It now tells you to update the world set. It says emerge, ask, verbose, update, deep, new use, at world. Emerge verbose, update, deep, new use. Verbose, update, deep, new use, at world. You put a P in there for pretend, you put a V in there for verbose, and a T in there for tree. And it gives you this output right here. There are a total of 9 packages that it will need to install to get it up to date. I could reasonably assume that these packages were added sometime within the past 5 or 6 days. Delete the PVT, add world, hit enter. At this point, it will go about updating all of these packages. Also, at this point, it wants you to go about configuring the use variable. This can be found within the make.conf file. I will not be configuring that here. There is a way to configure this on a per package basis. And the way to configure it on a per package basis is actually listed further down the line. However, it does have a lot to do with this right here. We have several separate directories under /etc/portage. Specifically, we have package.use. This can be used to set package use flags on a per package basis. Now, if there is a use flag that you want to use system-wide, you would want to specify that in the make.conf file. I, however, prefer finer grained control over what I want my packages to support, so I don't enable use flags on a global basis. Additionally, within here, it tells you what you need to do to enable package licenses. I believe this will come in handy later on, because we are going to be installing a package that has binary redistributable and probably EULA type code in it. There is an option here to set systemd as the init system. However, most of this guidebook, if you can call it that, most of the Gentoo handbook is centered around OpenRC. And this thing is still syncing up. We'll open up a new tab. cat/usr/share/time zone. Was it time zone? User/share/zone info. And I can't type. also using the wrong command. We need to, oh, not copy, echo quotation marks America / Chicago. You can tell I'm not from Chicago because I don't have that sort of accent. Force that out to /etc /time zone. And then emerge /config syslibs time zone data. And once again, I hit Control-Shift-C here. That's going to happen a few more times also. Emerge /config time zone data /etc /portage /make.profile is not a symlink and will probably prevent most merges. Did I forget something? eSelect profile list failed to get a list of valid profiles. That's interesting. eSelect profile, no, just eSelect profile. List. Set. Oh, that's why. Ah. Just absolutely brilliant. Reason why this one wasn't working is because I kind of goofed. In order for a second one to actually work, we need to actually be in the chroot environment. So let's flip back over to here. Copy this little waste of time I did. And paste that little waste of time. There we go. There. That's how to set the time zone. Now I've got to set locales. These tell the system what language you want to be using. They also give the system a little bit of information as to how you want the time to be displayed and I think what your currency symbols are. So here for the time we would have month, day, year, hour, minute, second. Here we would have year, month, day, hour, minute, second. And here we would have day, month, year, hour, minute, second. Here we would also have the euro sign. Here we would have the yen sign. And here we would have the dollar sign. If we used EN_CA, we would have the dollar sign as well. If we use EN_UK, that would give us the pound sign. However, these are the locales I plan on using: English, Japanese, and German. Perhaps not the most statistically important languages on the planet, however, those are the ones that I prefer to have, so those are the ones that I will use. After which we need to run locale-gen. This actually generates the locales, after which we will go eSelect locale list. It's currently set to c.utf8. We want to set it to enus.utf8. So eSelect locale set, you can say 10, or you can say en_us.utf8. Either one will work. Also, I said EU for some reason. Probably because brain was going a little bit faster than my typing. So en_us.utf8. And there we go. It says to run /etc/profile to update the variable in your shell. However, this thing has a few different ideas. It wants you to run environment update because we've updated a fair amount of environment variables. It wants you to run ./etc/profile or source/etc/profile, and it wants you to re-export the prompt. So that's exactly what we'll do. That was actually fairly quick. That's also the end for this particular chapter. The next one is going to be tons of fun with configuring the kernel. Look forward to seeing you on that one.